Nobody's got it all figured out. It's too complicated. All you can do is just take it one bite at a time and keep moving forward and keep striving. But you have to continually study it. And a lot of people won't study things. They just want to, it's a personality style thing. Some people just kind of want to, feel their way forward or gut their way forward. And the head types, they're messy too. But it's like you need to think it through. You have to think and plan, no matter what personality style you are, because if you don't, you'll be all over the place.
Rick, welcome to the Leader's Furnace.
Good morning, Eddie.
Good morning. We define the Leader's Furnace as all of the pressure, illusion, fire of leadership. It is the Leader's Furnace that you have gone through, but also all of the lessons along the way. And so for those listening for a first time or those who have been tracking with your story today, first of all, we just want to encourage the listener and just go, hey, as people are whittling, as they're working, as they're doing, as they are up at the 3:30 a.m.ers, do you have any kind of encouragement to start?
Well, as a 6, I have to plan that out, but just go at it spontaneously. Yeah. But it's one of those. It seems like the characteristics of success are, they exist, and a lot of people want to be successful, but they have not identified the top 10 or 20 things that are the most influential to become successful. So, as you speak of that, the early morning risers, it's huge. So the early morning rise, having the goals that go with that propel you each day. Having the map, which is the boat with the rudder each day, because it's, even if you're busy, you got to be efficient with the busy. You got to be focused and organized. So having the maps, and some of the maps we have in this other room over here, if you're confused about something, you can't stay confused. You have to get clarity of thought on that. And it speaks to that in Think and Grow Rich. You get clarity of thought is critical, because if you don't have clarity of thought, you end up with fear, or you end up with miscalculation and confusion. So, early rise goals should have there should be problem solving goals, and then there should be aspirational goals. It shouldn't just be all the fun aspirational stuff. It should be, if you don't have a list of goals that relate to problem solving, then the problems just exist. So those are just some good fundamentals to be optimistic. I was listening to a Christian message on the way in just to get my day started, and 3 or 4 things in there just jumped out for me today, kind of got me, kind of 3 or 4 times. So I think all of those things are really helpful on the success journey. Mm-hmm. A lot of people just think it's making money and, doing the work, and those are all good things, but you got to make sure you're on the right map. So,
So I hear you saying you need to have a map for this process. You need to have faith, and you need to have clarity. Right, as you bring those together, almost like going on a journey, essentially. It's been the last week or two, I feel like that word has been on my mind and my heart a lot, is journeying. You journey with people. They have to hit new bottoms. You have to keep journeying with them. Yeah. And you're not necessarily enabling anymore, or even sometimes you're calibrating support and challenge, but you're journeying with them because you're journeying to the bottom. So as people are doing this work, as they're listening in, your encouragement is that faith, a map, and clarity are kind of the way forward. And this is not a work of confusion. This is not a work of just busyness. This is not a work of hopelessness. You actually need these very 3 specific things, which is faith, clarity, and a map.
Yeah, so that if you get up early or get up late, you need to, it's like Abe Lincoln talked about, sharpening the saw. You don't want to go to work until you sharpen that saw. Otherwise, you're just sawing with a dull blade. So got to get up early and get ahead of the crowd. A lot of the crowd just shows up, unfortunately. Nobody means to do it. They just show up and get started. You want to show up with a clear plan, a very focused plan, a map to go from A to B and B to C all day long, and that will make a difference. So.
Yeah. We talk about the illusions of leadership getting burned off in the furnace because you're staying in the fire long enough. Yeah. The illusion would be, we can do this without a map. We can get to our destination without a map. We'll just start the journey and we'll see what happens, kind of like Lampoon's Vacation, and ultimately we end up somewhere and we call it success, but it's not necessarily where we had intended to go, right? Mm-hmm. Or the illusion of going, hey, I can do this without faith. And it's a very lonely ride if we don't have faith to accompany us in this process, or the illusion of doing it confused, right? It'd be like, I don't know all the information, or I don't have all of the pieces, or I don't have all of the people, but doing it in confusion. And when things get done in confusion, people get hurt. When things get done in confusion, the outcomes aren't always what we
There's a lot of reversing that goes with it. And you mentioned faith. It's like if you're pursuing a goal that does not require faith, the goal is too small. I mean, these things all go together. I'm a better Christian because the bigger the goal was, and the bigger butt kickings that went with it, the more I was praying. Mm-hmm. So they all kind of go together. But that clarity of thought, and a lot of times I hear people say, don't be so controlling. You don't need a map. Just have faith. They blend together. It isn't as simple as a yes or no. They're all factors of it. But so many people say, Rick, why is everything a map? Why is it so under control? It's like, well, I want to be under control when I launch, and then the Lord will take me in whatever direction the wind blows, and I'm fine with that. But at least want to be prepared. It's almost like a respect thing to the Lord also. It's like I just want to be prepared, and I want to just be prepared with all I can give, knowing that He'll provide the remaining portion of it in faith. So.
Rick, today, as we talk about the leader's furnace, we want to talk about the benefits of staying in the leader's furnace. And so before we do that, I wanted to ask you, how would you define, in your own words, the leader's furnace?
Sometimes I get described a lot of times as like not having feelings and being able to kind of handle anything that comes my way. And I think there's been so many battles that I've fought and so many combat missions I fought that I've just, found that being emotional about it makes it worse. And it kind of fits my personality style too. So I'm an under emotional personality, so to speak, with my sickness, given the other Enneagram numbers. But
I'm in the leader's furnace with you, but I feel a lot of feelings every day,
Yes.
But I'm staying in that furnace.
Yes, it's harder for you to do it.
Oh, yeah,
me.
we're in it.
But with you, people wouldn't be so much about, you don't have feelings and you're emotionless. You have more feelings and more emotion than me. So I benefit a little bit there. But what's happened is after all the failures and the mistakes and the reversals and the complexities, I've just been, taught through faith or through experience or through different conditions that when trouble comes, you need to pull back, get in. We talk about gears with the 5 voices. We have gearing, the 1 through 5 gears, and the PMI team is now invented number 6. They call it the green gear, and they're in gear 6 today. It's like, but those gears matter. You got to pull back to gear 1, reset yourself, get out a new piece of paper, and then get out a granny gear and move forward. So you got to learn to take the beatings and learn to take the failures and learn to have the bad things going on. But when they happen, you just got to get a hold of yourself. You got to learn to regroup, reset, refocus. If we look in my notepad is a written form of map. It's just, what I'm doing all day long is in there. There's 2 documents in there that'll profoundly stick out if we pulled out 10 notepads. One would be that if you see a catharsis in there, if I go to catharsis, I'm in a partial trauma, or I'm afraid, or I'm nervous, or I'm confused. So I stop and I basically do the positive side of it and the negative side of the catharsis, and then it just resets me, and then I can go again. Because if not, I start to move to emotion. Most people can't see it, but I am inside because I don't know if the word's emotion or fear. It's probably more towards fear. Then the fear triggers emotion. But the catharsis tool is wonderful. Or yesterday throughout the day, I had a plan and I had a map, but that map had to be modified at about 11 o'clock and it'd be modified again at 4. So I had a plan, but the day as it opened up and unraveled, it required a clean piece of paper, like, okay, reset your top 5. Because I'll have a top 100 each day. I'll have 100 things to do every day, and I'll get 80 of them done. I won't get them all done, but there it is again. I want to push myself. I could have 5 goals that I do perfectly, or 5 things to do, but I have 80. I have 100, and I'll get 80 of those done. So it's a bit of a failure there, but it's aspirational. That makes sense. So I accept the fact that I don't get 100 done, but all those things are interwoven in how to keep myself going. And other people, they don't recognize these tools to keep you emotionally under control and climbing the hill and not freaking out. So
you define the leader's furnace as staying focused or finding a way to stay focused, right? You said you go, you execute, but at some point things get hard, whether it's a mental strain or an emotional strain, it will bog you down. And then you have to regroup, reset, and refocus. And you remain in the leader's furnace in the process that you're in the work that you're in the journey that you're going on, right? So what are the benefits of being in the furnace? Do you have one that comes to mind, or I'll lob one up at you? Because I have a few.
There's like so many.
Yeah.
It's simple, but complicated / sophisticated. My sickness don't like the word sophisticated, but let's call it complicated. So some of the tools of the furnace are, you got to know yourself to kind of grow yourself. There's a term. What's the term you use?
Know yourself to lead yourself.
Know yourself to lead yourself. Okay, and you got to know that, because you almost need to, throughout the day, once an hour, back up and look in the mirror and kind of check yourself, where you at, what's going on. The person of you needs to be studied, and not just the activity that's going on. Yesterday at about 3:30 or 4, I just kind of wanted to give up yesterday. I don't know why. I'm like, I think I'll go home. And I'm like, wow, why am I thinking that? Well, I was on vacation last week, and when you come back from vacation, you have the pile of things that needed to be done since you were on vacation. So I was kind of feeling it, and I'm a human. So I wanted to. Some people say I'm not, because I'm somewhat emotionalist, but it's a little more complicated than that. So all at once I looked in the mirror and I'm like, wow, what are you doing? What do you want to go home for? How will that help things? It's not going to help things. You're just kind of feeling down a little bit. You're feeling a little overwhelmed today. And I got out a piece of paper, rewrote the next 5, and then I worked till like 5:45 or 6, and I got like 10 more things done that really needed to be done. But I think a lot of people do that all day long. They want to escape the work, or they want to escape the stress or escape the fear. And when that happens, this is part of the leader's furnace. You have to realize that will not take you to a better place. It'll take you back to being simple and back to being just a person, but it won't take you to the place that you want to go with your goals and your mission. So throughout the day, once an hour, looking in the mirror, studying yourself, knowing yourself, and then making the adjustments, just like with me. We're here talking about leader's furnace, and I'm the person that's, speaking of it. I'm human too. I had yesterday was trying to fail on me. That makes sense. But instead I had to look at it in the mirror. Not a good thing to do. Why are you doing it? It's because I'm overwhelmed, because vacation was great. And I come back in, I'm like, wow, well, I started thinking about that. My sickness, my fears, like overwhelmed. Maybe I shouldn't have gone that many days. But you see it. It's the evil one is trying to speak to me about it. You and I have talked about some vacations. I had a wonderful vacation last week with my wife. We had a great time. And we had 1 or 2 days. We just did nothing, which is very unusual for me. Did nothing. And there were several things happened by doing nothing. It was a Sabbath, so to speak. But there was some enlightenment happened because I wasn't grinding on the list. So I actually did something that I normally don't do, and that is just sit there and listen. And then there's the Lord. It has to be from the Lord, because there's 2 very interesting things that happened by having nothing to do. And they just showed up, and I'm like, that's not accidental. So, but then the contrast to that is that I come back into the workplace and I'm not on top of it. I'm behind, I'm making mistakes. I'm not a good leader. But see, there's self-doubt happening. So as we talk about these tools, and, I know myself as a 6, and I kind of understand when the yin happens, I know how to move into the yang. That makes sense?
I've known you for about 13 years, and especially in the last few, I've really kind of came to understand more your personality style. And so when you're talking about, I want to go home. No, let me double down, figure it out, accomplish 10 more things. That's not something that you're prescribing the people that are listening to you. You're having a moment where you're going, I know myself in order to lead myself, in order to do what is healthy for you in that moment. Other people might have a different way of approaching that. They might actually go home and do something different that's on their list, whatever it is. But for you, you're saying, hey, don't miss the fact that it's a 6, a creative pioneer learning to go, this is how we rally. You know what I mean? And this is for you, Rick, specific to go, I know myself in order to lead myself so that I can stay in the work in a way that's healthy.
Yes.
right? And then that's a benefit that's come from this season, is knowing yourself in order to lead yourself, of knowing when you've been triggered, when you're down, when you're up, and then you have a map essentially for resetting, regrouping, and then continuing.
Yes, and it's like, it's not my strengths that are going to be a problem in that. It's going to be the weaknesses, and the weaknesses. That thing yesterday, just the evil one was. I like to use that word, whether it was or wasn't. It felt that way. It's just like, what are we doing? Why am I feeling down? Why do I want to run away? Why do I want to take a break? What's going on here? I had to study that a little bit, and I'm just like, that's not going to change anything. It's just going to make my tomorrow worse. Mm-hmm. The pile will be even larger. Today's Wednesday. This was Tuesday at 4. So as I stopped and I looked myself in the mirror and studied myself, I'm like, you just need to get back at it. It took me a little while. I think I did a real quick prayer. It's like, Lord, help me get back moving again. I can't really do it right now. Next thing, no matter, I was back at it, and I got like 10 things done that are the 10 things will not be happening today, which is really nice.
So some people feel as comfortable in vacation as you do when you're here at work. Mm-hmm. So that's something that caught my eye as we were working through this, is for you, the leader's furnace sometimes is actually going on vacation and having a Sabbath.
Oh yeah, that's harder for me than working.
Part of your leader's furnace.
That's my weakness. I have to grow into that because I'm so used to grinding and climbing the hill.
But you remained in it, and there's a couple of things that came to mind. Now, you don't have to share the two things, but what do those two things represent, at least, that came to mind as you're like, wow, like this might not show up in my day-to-day. This shows up in situations like this.
So they were massive. They were, who is the great psychologist? I forget his name. 2 of his videos showed up. Mm-hmm. And there's one video first, and I listened to it. Then the second one pops up, and they were specifically talking about where I'm at with my transition, about doing this thing where it's like how to realize you've arrived at a certain place, but you've arrived externally, not necessarily internally. And so there's a struggle now. It's like, I'm really pretty good at doing the work thing. I'm not very good at doing the away thing. And what it was saying is you got to ease into that. You got to accept it. It's a hard transition. It's the next phase of my life where I can not be at work and not make work number one. I took care of some things when I was there. To say we were on vacation would be you'd have to study that a little bit, but it was a vacation for me. But there was, I think I did $500,000 a day in proposals, 60 phone calls, and 100 delegations. Now that actually is a vacation for me because I only work like 6 hours. But after the 6, I was away. But I needed that as an Enneagram 6 mm-hmm. and a fear type. I needed to get that done to really feel good about being away. And maybe in the future, I won't need to do the 6 hours. But my team kind of needed me, and I don't want them to. There's a time for them to grow, and there's a time for them to hurt. And so I wanted to interact with them where they didn't feel like I dropped them and I'm on vacation. They're got a customer that really needs something really mm-hmm. really badly. So, but that it was interesting because it happened better than ever. And then by having the extra time, Saturday was a completely open day, and next thing you know, that video shows up, which was amazing. And, Carl Jung, mm-hmm. yeah, that's it, Carl mm-hmm. Jung. And there was 2 of them. There was one that is not random. There's why did these 2 things show up? Well, the first one shows up and is speaking exactly of this transition I'm going into. Mm-hmm. Then the next one was an extension of it. It was just mm-hmm. crazy. It just came up. Now, there's millions and millions of things that could have came up, but those 2 came up, and one was 45 minutes, the other was an hour. But I had to basically commit to the Sabbath to get that opportunity for that to show up. That makes sense? Otherwise, I'd just been running that race, but the Sabbath happened. I'm like, wow, this is a pretty big moment here. And it helped me just for a second realize the Sabbath is very valuable versus just doing proposals and interacting at work and taking care of customers and that type of thing.
Let me recap so far the benefits. 1, you know yourself to lead yourself. The benefits of being in the furnace, you get to know yourself to lead yourself. 2, the Sabbath. You end up being able to Sabbath well, learning to realize that you work from rest and work, kind of coincide together. You essentially are able to work from rest. Everybody sleeps and then they work for the rest of their day. You know what I mean? And so being able to do that in a rhythm of a week, but you actually took a vacation, right? And so Sabbath becomes part of that. Your Leader's Furnace was Sabbath in this past week or so. And then by being in it, you learned the concept of, hey, I have arrived externally. And so many people who are listening are getting there, but they have not arrived internally.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is one of the gifts of the Leader's Furnace is the insights or revelation or aha moments, whatever people want to say, but it's that moment of insight, of clarity. Let's talk about that for a second, because I think it's worth talking about. What does that arriving externally versus arriving internally, what does that look like? What does that mean?
Well, it's one of those, Power Mechanical is 40 years old, going on 41, and we're here, and it looks pretty interesting from the outside. It's like, if it took 40 years to do it, I must not be that good. It took 40 years; it should have took 4. And but there's a collection of a lot of things now that are coming together, and one of the biggest collection of things coming together is me. Because I affect the team when I'm not healthy. So I'm getting healthier, and I'm being able to realize when the triggers come, how to slow down with that, how to speak better to it. Earlier, we spoke of a couple of teammates that I was able to make really good progress with, because my meeting it wasn't telling them what I needed. It was asking them to help me fix a problem. And I approached it differently with them because I'm healthier. I'm understanding myself more. I'm hitting the brakes before I drive it off the cliff all the time, because my counterphobic will just get at it. It don't really care if it goes over the cliff, So with that, a whole lot of things are now happening. But the question would be do we want another 150 rental boilers? Do we want another 50 chillers? Do we want 10 more buildings? It's like, no, I don't. No, because I like to fight. I like to climb a hill. And for me, I need that. I need that thing. But the question now, and we'll call it second half of life conversation. First half of life, you're young, you're not paying attention, things are fun, you're not worried about anything. Well, I'm 63, so I need to be thinking about, if I make it to 90, how am I gonna plan that out? How am I gonna become better? What does it mean? I really want to make more apostles, and it's the craziest thing. The more apostles I make, the more the business goes. Because that's another thing. And that applies to what Jesus is asking of us. But I also find it at work that as people become more healthy and more whole, they contribute at a different level, because they're not just contributing for a paycheck on Friday. They're contributing through wholesomeness and through purpose and through mission, and they have goals and I have goals, and we're achieving simultaneously both ends of the goals. So yeah, those are all things that are kind of on the radar right now for where do we go, and maybe we do want to do another 150 boilers. I don't know. I don't want to really, If I make it to 80 or 90, we could do another 150, but what's it for? What would I do with that? What would it be for? We need to probably donate $1 million each year to something that matters. I would need to have a cause for that growth, not just a money pile, but something that makes a difference. And that's kind of where that's at. This kind of came up in the last couple of weeks. Is like, if we were to grow to that level, what good is it just to have it? And it is good to have it, but how would we use it? How would we contribute to something larger? A lot of times, as we speak of the outside, the inside, a lot of times in America as a country, when you check the statistics of it, it's 250 years old. It has more rich people than pretty much anybody in the world. I mean, it is a place where you'll have to work hard, and you'll have to use some of the principles we're talking about, Leader's Furnace, to make it. But you can do it. But here it is. If you set your mind to it, you struggle, you do these things that we're talking about and go through it, you'll eventually arrive at a certain level of success, and the money will come. But then what a lot of people don't realize is a void opens up. And that void is, you have the money, you have the success, but you're missing something, so we just have to work all that stuff in. That all has to be, like with me, it's like there's another There's another element showing up now, how to have a Sabbath. And believe me, when I'm on Sabbath, I can have a heart attack. When I'm doing the Sabbath thing, it's extremely stressful. People be like, well, last week you were at the beach and you went to the Outer Banks Car Show, and I'm sure it was super excited. But it was great to be away. I'm like, everybody else seemed to be doing that. But for me, it was, it's a lot of work. It's a stretch for me to slow down. Because having a head that's on fire all the time. As a 6, we run tornadoes in our mind that go on all the time. I want to cool that tornado down. That makes sense. But instead, what I should be doing is saying, the tornado exists. I'm not bothered by it. Lord, will you please walk me into this Sabbath and help this tornado slow down for me long enough for me to appreciate the Sabbath. So a lot of people would say, why is that hard? You deserve it. You worked all these years. Well, that's because it's a new gear for me. And so therefore we have things are going right in the company, and the people are here, and the people are growing, and the things are coming together. But now there's another level of work to do, and it also creates humility. It's one of those, I'm not all that in a bag of chips. There's plenty of work left to do. I'm not there yet. Makes sense. So,
as you know yourself to lead yourself, I sense that you end up being a good guide. Sherpa is the term that we use in the giant world, right? A good servant to the people that are in have a similar gearing to you, right? That I have met several leaders locally who have the tornado, you know what I mean? Who are like, there's no easy answers of going, hey, you should just rest, or take more time off, or go on vacation, or, you know what I mean? They'll say words like work-life balance, and you're like, those are all great concepts and ideas, but going, what does it look like for you to receive the invitation into transformation, which is not only the external growth and development of a business and an industry, that allows you to arrive externally, but the inner transformation that has to take place. And what that looks like is because it's so unique. People are so unique and individual, like their personalities individuals, their stories are individual. So you would know, and you're speaking to that, your transformation is also individual. We're just inviting everybody into the same invitation, but it's not the same. It doesn't look the same for everybody.
Yes, some people, their transformation would be where mine is, how to slow down and be in the moment. Theirs is they need to speed up. They're great at relaxing. They're great at hanging out, but they're not really winning the race. There's a price for that. So with them, it would be maybe how to engage a little bit more, where for me, it's I need to slow down. And that's what's wonderful about it. It's like nobody's got it all figured out. It's too complicated. All you can do is just take it one bite at a time and keep moving forward and, keep striving. But you have to continually study it. And a lot of people won't study things. They just want to, it's a personality style thing. Some people just kind of want to, feel their way forward or gut their way forward. And, the head types, they're messy too, but it's like, you need to think it through. Think and Grow Rich talks about this, and listen to it. It's called to Think and Grow Rich. Most people don't think. That's why they don't grow rich. And I don't like the Think and Grow Rich. I think it's a cool thing, but the way it's described, it goes right to money, and I think it's more to it than that. The description is that, but it's a form of leader's furnace also. It describes all these crazy people in America that had nothing, that built these things, and they went through the same leader's furnace also as they grew, and they struggled because they had these downsides or these addictions or these weaknesses, But in Think and Grow Rich, you have to think and plan, no matter what personality style you are, because if you don't, you'll be all over the place. If I'm going to go from here to Richmond, I'm going to pull up, nowadays you can pull up Google Maps and it'll tell me where the traffic's backed up, and it'll be the most efficient way to get there. That's for everything. There's no Google map for how to have a Sabbath. There's no Google map for, how to, if I'm a gut type, how to slow down, add the element of thinking to my gut type nature, because I'm plagued by the fact that I'm jumping right in underplanned and I'm resilient enough, but I have a lot of reversals. But you're losing in reversal. That makes sense? So all of that stuff, you got to study yourself, and you have to think. And then you have to think to paper, because people that don't use paper are plagued by not having the map. I mean, I can't imagine, I can think deep very quickly because I take it to paper, and the paper is a form of the thought's intangible. Once the thought goes to paper, it's now tangible. And then you can extend the elements of thought because you can now see them and attach other things to them.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't want to do that. And when you look in the mirror for other people, I'm kind of blessed because I that fits my personality style. But as we speak of the other personality styles, maybe the heart types or the gut types, if you could take an Enneagram 8 and they could learn to plan, I'm going to get laid off. I'm getting fired and laid off. They're going to take my job.
You have that sign downstairs that says the shortest pencil is greater than the best memory or the greatest memory. Just this, I have a trigger, and I don't like 3:30 a.m. It's not my favorite. But if my list hits beyond, let's say 50, right now, I know you have a very long list, but I have multiple lists. But like if the master list hits beyond 50, it triggers me having to get up at 3:30 because I know that list is officially not going down because it's got a trigger system, right? And so it's I try to keep it under 50 the best I can, on any given day, because 3:30 sucks. But you hit 51, it's 3:30 a.m., right? And so being able to have those triggers, one of the things that I really
see that, Eddie, that's so cool to describe that, because if you could get 51 to 60, what would that mean in the expansion of your capabilities? And there it is. That's a leader's furnace moment. And you're like struggling because your personality style, my head's on fire at 3:30, so I want to get up, put the fire out. Yours is a little different. That makes sense. You're okay with it. You're a little calmer. The tornado is not the same tornado, so therefore you can sleep a little. But there it is. There it is. We're running into who we are, and we're trying to figure out how to use these tools, because we're all colliding with different things. That makes sense. So with you got to figure out how to balance that out. But if you can push yourself to the 51 and maybe only do it for a sprint, maybe only do it for a year. That makes sense. Maybe not do it for 20 years, but maybe do it for 1 year. And there it is. You might see that might be an element of expansion in your business progress that makes a 25% growth moment. That makes sense. So you have to pick it, and you notice you're struggling with it because your personality is arguing with it, right?
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Oh, yes. You're right. I mean, there are all these little levers, right? Our friend Tom Noon always talks about levers, the next lever you have to pull.
The lever guy, yes.
There's all these levers that I look at and I'm made aware of by him, or, we will be talking and I was like, oh, there's another lever. And then the choice that you have is I either pull the lever or I don't. But there's clarity. There's a map. Yeah. And that's where you're like.
Yeah, see, you have the map down. You don't want to pull the lever because you see it. Right? It's just you are having trouble pulling the lever for 3:30. I'm having trouble pulling the lever for the Sabbath. And it's like, wow, why is it like that? Well, because we're very different. That makes sense. But that's the next level. Like, I don't need to speed up, so to speak, anymore, or work another 10 hours a day. I need to enjoy that Sabbath. And with you, maybe you need to add 51 or 52, not 60 or 70, but add a few, and only for maybe a season, maybe for a day, maybe for a week, maybe for a month. You see it? But it's just so interesting. Here it is. We're talking about the leader's furnace, but really it is, you have to know yourself to be able to, know yourself to lead yourself. And we're talking about, you know yourself and you're trying to lead yourself, but you're struggling because you've collided with your personality. I'm the same way, both in very different ways. And this is, very few people have a conversation this deep. Usually it's like, I want a Ford, Chevy, or a Dodge, or the football game, or the baseball game, or the NASCAR race. What are those called? They're the inch-deep, mile-wide thoughts, very shallow. This right here is the mile-deep, inch-wide conversation. And most people don't like to have it. And if you have it, then you got to go to paper with it, because if you have it, most people think that talking is doing. Talking is not doing. I only talk to get to the do. But I don't talk to talk. I talk to get to the do. All I want is my marching orders. When I have a conversation, what are my marching orders to move? But some people are like, well, Rick, we just hang out. Well, that's okay to hang out. But hanging out is not as progressive as it sounds. Oh, it's wonderful and it's connective. But a lot of people can't get out of that gear and take that, because it makes sense. So Absolutely. What I want to do, as you and I do these, we're doing a mile deep, inch wide thing right now. It's like, what are we going to do with it? Makes sense. I'm going to this weekend potentially do another 4-hour Sabbath. Okay, that's what I'm going to do going forward. Then for you is, what are you going to do with that? 50 is fine. You don't want to trade off work-life balance. You don't trade off family. You want to trade off time with the wife, time with the kids, because there's a challenge there that makes sense. So, you're struggling in one way, I'm struggling in another, but we're now a mile deep in awareness. We're no longer an inch deep, and this is where most people run away from this, or they live shallow lives. And you can live whatever life you want to, but you will realize at some point that regret is regret standing right behind you, saying, "Hey, I'm not going anywhere." And you don't notice it at first, but as you get 30 and then 40, then 50, you'll be like, "Wow, I missed a lot." So there it is. Just these are deep conversations and Leaders Furnish related issues.
We have this map that essentially says, hey, when you have awareness as an individual, right, there's these insights that take place. But then when you have awareness and then you have action connected to it, then behavior changes, right? But then if you have as a team or as a family, you have this awareness as a team or as a family, then you understand the dynamics in the room, right? What's happening between all these people. Yep. And then if you move that group dynamics, awareness into action, then you have performance. And so then you're able to move people into we already understand what's happening at the individual level. We know what's happening at the group level. And now we know how to perform together.
Yeah. And it's one of those people want to be successful. Being successful on your own is very limited. Oh, you might say I'm great and everybody else isn't. And I'm awesome and I'm better than them. It's the mantra of so many people. And it's like, you have to realize your influence level at the U level is very, very small. And you can't get ahead with that. It's unifying the people and the teams. Then when you try to do that, then you run into the need for the Enneagram and the 5 voices. And then each person is a one page because they're different. Like you said earlier, they have a childhood story, maybe the story from age, that there's a lot of influence happening in that childhood up to like age 20. The traumas and all that are different. Their personality style is different. And then you start to bring all that stuff together. And if you can show them that map, and most parents don't teach it because they don't know. It's not a blame thing. It's just some of us strive. The darkness is what made me strive to get it, because I didn't like being in the darkness for so long. I'm very good at it, and I can do 2 or 3 years at a time in darkness. Most people can't do 2 or 3 minutes before they have to medicate it or whatever. Well, I can do it for a long period of time, so I have a skill set there. But I don't like that. So that made me search for all of this stuff. We got to teach people all these tools, but they got to want to use the tools, because if they don't want to use them, they won't show up.
I got another piece of the puzzle this week. I knew the book existed, and I kept deferring listening to it. I don't even know why, but I finally listened to it. It's called The Gap and the Gain. Just to bury the lead, I bought a 26-foot center console boat, and I'm scraping the barnacles off the bottom, listening to The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. Great book. I highly recommend it. So The Gap essentially says, I come from an alcoholic home. I was raised in the trailer park. I got beat up, by peers or by my dad or by whoever. And I could be in the gap. I could say, and I'm a victim. That hurt me. I'm down. Or I can turn that into a gain and say that happened and that made me stronger and I'm still here and I don't live in that reality anymore. My dad's not even around anymore. I don't have to live in an alcoholic trailer home, right? And so I turn it into a gain. And so you either live in the gap or the gain. Now, you've been turning people's trauma, hurt, rough past into the gain for a few years now.
Yeah, as you walk them out of that, they unite with you because you gave them something nobody ever gave to them. You gave them that piece they didn't understand. They never talked about it. Yeah.
And what people consider the gain, which is if they're born with a silver spoon in their mouth, or if they end up in a really nice home, I think also the prejudice for us will be like, well, they don't have the gain that we do. The reality is they also have a gain. They have to be able to see their background as a gain and realize that they still have the same choice that we do, which is to redeem their story or to see their story through the gain and not the gap. The problem is that most people are like, I'm good. I didn't grow up with any trauma. I'm fine. The problem is if you don't see your fineness or your foundation as a gain, then you don't build on that strong foundation. So you either have a cracked foundation you see as a gain because you filled in the gap with some concrete and some dirt, you rub some spit on it and you build something, or you have a really strong foundation and then you see it as a gain and you build on it anyway. But it's about how we see our life, the gap or the gain.
Yeah, and both, as you speak there, Thomas Jefferson said something a long time ago, and then the gentleman in our meetings, we have that video come up where that guy is an athlete, I think he's a basketball player, and he talks about his father walked 10 miles to work and then eventually became wealthy. And then after that, the children benefited from that, and then they slowly ruined it. Well, Thomas Jefferson speaks of the same thing, and it's like there are soldiers and warriors, and those soldiers and warriors create farmers. And you think about being a farmer, I mean, it's generational. When you're a farmer, I mean, somebody else bought the farm. You are farming it, but you didn't, so to speak, build it. You inherited it. And it's wonderful. It's great. But your goal is to just get by and to just keep planting, not really grow and tear down trees and pull up stumps and all that stuff. You're just wanting to keep it going. But the farmers produce the artists. And then what happens is the artists don't know how to manage trauma. And then trauma will come and you will not be ready. You get your ass kicked. So us trailer park people, we've seen some trauma because there's plenty of trauma in the trailer park because that's a tough section of town, so to speak. And I'm so glad I've seen all that because trauma comes my way and I'm like, okay. But there it is. The children of the blessing have a nightmare coming they don't know about yet. That's why, I'm a bit of a fan of the term millennial. There's a lot of millennial bashing goes on. It's like, okay, I get it. Get it out. Say what you're going to say. But a lot of millennials were created because their family had a certain amount of abundance and comfort was there. You have to teach a millennial 10% trauma. So this is a strange thing to say, but I had like 4 engineers a while back sitting in front of me, and man, them some bitches were pretty. I mean, their shit was just combed just right, and their clothing was perfect, and they had been to school, and they'd been to all kinds of meetings and social functions. They were gorgeous. They're like little models. And they're all sitting over there with their computers and shit, and I'm sitting over with these piles of paper and notepads. I'm like their ultimate nightmare, and then I'm in charge, and they're working for me, and they're like, the guy's a caveman. That's probably true, but I've covered a lot of ground as a caveman, so they're kind of judging me, and I'm judging them. And I told them, I'm about to hurt you, and I don't want you to be bothered, but I'm going to spend a year introducing some pain to you because I care. I've chosen you to be here. I've chosen you as an employee. I believe in you. That mechanical engineering degree you have is amazing. Yeah, I'm just so literally, it's an amazing degree.
I know what you're saying. You're saying, hey, I'm getting ready to calibrate a high degree of challenge and support.
Oh, it's going to start off as domination at first because it's just boot camp. Just want to see what they'll do with it. That makes sense. But it has to be.
We have an acceptable way of doing this in the Navy SEALs or in Delta guys, and they go through a domination for a season, and then they enter into being part of the organization and being able to execute, high level missions. It's not unlike that, what you do at PMI.
It's very similar. But I told them it because I didn't want them to think I was just trying to be mean to them. I'm simply giving them the element of the 10% trauma, and they're going to get some thicker skin from it so they can be dealing with customers that are screaming or nasty or mean or dominators or angry. But they're not going to be bothered by it. But here it is. Old Thomas Jefferson, speaking of, as they came back, they were the soldiers and the warriors that built it. And then their children became farmers, and they didn't see battle and blood and death because they were farmers, and then their children become artists.
If the children see their life as a gain and not as a gap, you end up with some really strong and powerful soldiers. You end up with some really strong and powerful farmers. And you can actually end up with some really strong and powerful artists.
Absolutely.
But they have to be in the game.
Yep.
They have to be in the know yourself to lead yourself. They have to be in the process, right?
That's right. They have to understand if you're a soldier, you might stay in soldier mode, not get out of it. So it wouldn't hurt for you to get a 10% element of the artist to calm down and get out of being strong and being tough and direct. And everything's about, battle. Well, you need to add the 10% element of the artist, where the artist needs the 10% element of the warrior. Because that's what's happening nowadays in America. Our country is somewhat arriving. There's plenty of wealth and plenty of people with money and all that stuff. And what they're doing is creating children that have no desire to go out and work. And they don't even realize it. They screwed that up. They overloved their children. They're in the gap thinking they were a good parent. Yeah. Oh, they're thinking they're a good parent because they fixed everything for their child. Yeah. You screwed your kid up. You're going to come here and your kid's going to start crying and run home. Why? Because you didn't parent them well. Yeah. Not on purpose, but you simply didn't give them an element of warrior to prepare for the trauma. But they are loved children, and there's 3 cars in the drive, and you give them $300 a week for this, and they go to college, and instead of going for 4 years and having to work a job, you let them go 6 years and give them all the money they want. This is the parents' fault. It's not the kids' fault. And then they call them millennials. Well, you build them, man. My kids aren't my kids. They wondered if their father even loved them. Because I wanted them to be prepared. I wanted them, if they encountered what I encountered, to not run away. Now, I absolutely love them. They can realize that now in a very big way. Their father one-paged each one of them. I built each one of them differently. One's a 5, one's a 1, and one's a 6. That makes sense? And then they have different voices. Well, I planned that out because I didn't want them to encounter something and run away. So the point of it is that it's more of a leader's furnace thing going on. It's wonderful to have soldiers and warriors. There's a time for that. Then it's wonderful to have farmers. There's a time of peace, and you're at your farm, and you're being left alone, and you're producing crops, and you're planting and harvesting and saving money. And then there's time to be an artist. But each one needs a 10% element of the other to be prepared how to move in and out of those zones. And this is Thomas Jefferson stuff. This is old school stuff. When a lot of people say that, they're Americans, they are, but they damn sure didn't build it. They're participating in the build of others. We did not build this. We are using the systems that were given to us by Jefferson, Washington, the elements of Martin Luther King. These are all people that did something significant, and we get to have this today. I'm just saying that a lot of people think we're Americans and we build it. No, we're getting to use something that was built by others.
Yeah, we get to discover something along the way, that there's a personal purpose. And when you're in the leader's furnace, you stay in the process. There's a personal purpose that arises that comes from being in the furnace. But then there's also this greater purpose, or this macro purpose, which is we are building something that was given to us as a gift, right? Depending on the era that we're in, but we're definitely in this American era where we are arriving, and there's a lot of people in the game, and then or a few people in the game. There's a lot of people in the gap.
Yeah,
and we're all constantly trying to bring people over to the game, right? But that requires a mindset shift. It requires intentionality. It requires us wanting to be in that process, part of a process even. One of the things that I don't want to miss, because it was one of the stories that I wanted to share from your story so far. The Leader's Furnace as a life story that you've been in is. You did all of the external things, and all of a sudden there was a time for you to buy a farm. And so we wanted to take the next, 15, 20 minutes for you to share what was that process like for you. It actually encapsulates some of the things we've been talking about today. Would you take some time to share with us?
Okay, but just real quick,
yes.
Close out that last subject.
Please.
When you get awareness, you can back up and look in the mirror and go, how can I be a warrior? How can I be a farmer? And how can I be an artist? That makes sense. And then figure out how to be a little bit of each, because you will need to be those throughout your life. This is why when people go in the military, especially if they're younger, they come back, they got trauma, they got PTSD. They were immersed in something immediately they were not ready for. Mm-hmm. They were artists or they were farmers, and now they have to be warriors. And there's not much, the Navy SEALs and the Delta people we speak of, they do that to them to prepare them for that. Well, a lot of the military doesn't get that training. Then they come home with these god-awful traumas and an addiction tied to it. Well, it's a relative thing. So we want the artist to learn how to get in warrior mode, mm-hmm. because if not, and they have a season of warrior, they're just going to break. Mm-hmm. Makes sense? And the thing we're about to talk about is another one of those, okay? Mm-hmm. So I'm just like, that was exactly the same thing. So we're going to pass that little subject up. We're going to move on. We're going to tell a story about the farm. But if people are listening to this, that thing about the warriors and soldiers and the farmers and the artists, if they don't do anything else, study that today. If there's no takeaways, they need to dig into that.
Would you say this? Because there's 4 words there, and I think that one carries the thread that you're trying to do. There's a soldier, there's a farmer, and there's an artist. But what you're saying is, hey, you have to have, woman or man, you have to have a warrior heart to be a soldier. You have to have a warrior heart to be a farmer, man or woman. You have to have a warrior heart to be an artist, to actually stay in the furnace and actually accomplish the God-given purpose you have, right? The personal purpose or the greater purpose that's before you. You have to have a warrior heart. And so that's the thread that you are encouraging people to enter into, is like, what does it look like to have a warrior heart as a nurse? What does it look like to have a warrior heart as a machinist? What does it look like to have a warrior heart as a CEO? What does it look like to have a warrior heart as a cameraman, right? Like, for you to actually have a warrior heart and go, I fight. Like, that's the word. That's what a warrior does. He fights. He fights for the highest good of his people, the highest good of his children, the highest good of his siblings. You know what I mean? That one's hard sometimes, right? The highest good of, there's all kinds of people, but we're fighting for their highest good. We're calibrating support and challenge. We're knowing ourselves to lead ourselves. We're knowing them to lead them, right? But it's this fight word, right? This warrior heart. The warrior heart is the intent, being for people. And so that is the thread that kind of weaves itself through all of that we're talking about today.
It is, but they have to choose, because what they'll do is they'll pick one and stay in it. But you need all 3. And it'll be very hard if you are a warrior or a soldier to spend time in artist land. And there it is. It's another thing. You have to choose these things. If you don't choose, you will stay artist, you will stay farmer, or you will stay warrior. But what you want is an element of each in your package, because different seasons will require different tools, you know. And if I'm kind of a warrior person, so I got to learn to like be an artist. It's like, hey, just relax, have a good time. Don't dwell on anything, because I like a good fight. I like to climb a hill. Well, there it is. I'm good at that, and not good at relaxing, and not good at letting go. So the word Sabbath has been very helpful for me, but it's very hard. So I have to be really intentional. And this last weekend was the best ever time of it. I can just tell it's getting better and better, but it was brutal to get to that. I think several times I've told you I hate vacations. They just blow up and screw up. Why? Because there's a bunch of people there. And they take my time away. That's awesome. And they blow it up because they start bitching and whining and crying and making it all about them. You know, because I can't plan that out. I can plan the going, and I can plan the pontoon boat and the other stuff. And you get there and they start bitching and whining and arguing and drinking. You're like, oh my God, you've ruined my weekend. Well, now I'm realizing that's just part of the package. When you go there, if you want to be with them, they're going to do it every single time. You know, it's going to be all about them, but it's not a big deal. That makes sense. But I'm thinking it should be perfect every time. But there it is. Which mode am I in? Which gear am I in? But that thing with Jefferson, that's extremely old. Those people were warriors. They saw it. They were all of them. They had to get from warrior back into farmer. That makes sense. And at some point, they had the element of artist. I just like that story and how old it is. And then I also like the fact that there's a modern story just like it from the gentleman, the athlete, and he does it with such humility. He almost seems like he's about to cry. It is so meaningful to him. That video we play, I love that. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorites. Like my top 10 videos where the guy speaks of his father walked to work 10 miles, and then eventually this children get a Lamborghini, and eventually they go back to walking. That makes sense. So we have to enter into that purposefully, and it's going to hurt, but we need that element. In the same way, the SEALs and the Delta people, they produce warlike conditions prior to combat. That way, when they get in it, it's not they're as prepared as possible for something that may nearly be impossible to be prepared for. But at least they've been traumatized so much, it's just regular to them to deal with that situation. So, you know, talking about the dream of getting a farm and having horses and putting my family on the farm. Wow. If they only knew. They'll know now, though. I've told it several times, but man, the brutality, that was incredible. So, you know, my wife and I grew up, we were around horses, and then, you know, the horses would get sold because the family runs out of money for several different foolish reasons. Some of them not foolish, but most of them foolish. Not planning ahead, not thinking ahead, you know, so they had horses, we had horses, and then you'd dream of it, you'd have it, you'd love it. The next thing you know, your shit gets sold. They're gone. So this little animal that you love is just, going to the auction and getting sold to some people that, if it's going to be treated right or not treated right. So she saw it and I saw it, and we kind of longed to have a farm and have horses and not have them get sold and repossessed, so to speak, all the time. So we started looking, and it takes a long time. It took like a year or two, and ran across a couple of things. One of them we almost purchased, but they couldn't get the titling right of it, and it kind of hurt a little bit, but it was actually a blessing, because by missing that one, we got the one we have. And man, thank you, Lord, for it. So not easy, but wonderful. So we eventually, after about a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, we find a place, and we're like, oh my God, it's awesome. It's perfect. And it's a 100-acre farm that is going for sale at an auction. And we're like, okay, we're going to attend this auction. So we're super excited. And so we go to the auction, and I'm not there because I'm looking at a boiler at Newport Shipbuilding. And I have a cell phone, and I'm about to go into the Nancy Lee's. It's the boilers package that steams the aircraft carriers while they're in dock. My wife's at the auction. Now this is really scary, okay, because my wife will do what she wants to do any way she wants to do it. So she's saying yes, yes, yes at the auction, and I have to go downstairs with the Newport Shipbuilding people, and I'm like, that girl will do something she should and ought to do, because she'll grab and go. So I go downstairs, and it's up to like 110,000 or 115,000 or something. So it's definitely within a good range. But then I'm like for 15 minutes I'm down there and I can't get out. There's no reception. I come out and I'm like, oh my God, did she do 500,000 or something? And we ended up going at like 150 or something.
Nice.
So it was nice, and it was a huge blessing. And it was, now that I'm looking back on it, it was too good to be true, because it was too good to be true. We just didn't know yet. Okay. So, we get it. We're super excited. And I'm like, man, thank God she didn't spend $500,000. I didn't have it anyway. And, but that number worked. We could make that number work. And, it was a good value for what was going on there. And it was an abandoned Purdue chicken farm. And, we're all excited, and we're thinking this all summer we're going to live this dream, and the dream just immediately turns into a nightmare. So we get it, and we go out to see it, and we're parking, kind of trying to figure out where the property lines are. The neighbor across the street kind of comes over and is like, "Hey, did you all win the auction?" We're like, yeah, we're super excited. We want to have a horse farm, because out there in the country, the people that have the farms are very concerned about putting housing divisions in. They're thinking, I want to buy it and split it up and sell it and all that stuff. We didn't do that. We didn't want to, but he didn't know. So he's trying to protect himself, and I respect that. He's, well, just letting you know, I'll show you where the property line is. I'm like, oh, well, thank you. I got a new friend now, right? And when people say neighbors and friends, it's like, neighbors and friends shouldn't even be in the same sentence, okay? Because most neighbors are not necessarily friends. So, and he tells me, he's like, do you realize you bought something that does not have a deeded easement? I'm like, oh no, there's a road down there. They say, yeah, that's my road. I'm like, well, no, that's the access to the farm. He's like, yeah, it is. It's my access. I'm like, yeah, but that's the only way to get to it. He's like, yeah, I know that. I'm just letting you know, that's a path of record. There's no easement there for you. I own 80 feet of that, and I'm not giving you that easement. Therefore, you won't be able to get financing to develop your farm. So next morning I get up at 3:30. I'm writing this all out, planning it all out.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely a 3:30 morning.
I'm like, the fear comes, and I'm thinking it through, and I'm like, we're in heaven, went right to hell. And, leaders furnish related stuff here. You got to be persistent. Could have rolled over and played dead, but it's like, nah, I'm not too good at that. I'd rather be dead as it would roll over. So I'm like, wow, what are you going to do about that? So we started studying that a little bit, and then we come to find out he's the commissioner of the planning committee. It just gets worse by the second. He's the most influential person in the county as it relates to the planning commission. He's the commissioner of the planning commission. And then he is in a position of power, so he knows multiple senators and all the local bankers. And I'm like, wow, really? So, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And then we have to get this thing into financing quickly, because we only had a certain amount of money to cover the down for the auction. And then we're going to convert it to financing. So we had a little bit of time there, but the time was running out, and the guy across the street knew exactly how to delay that. because that's what he does all the time. He lets people get into projects, just drags the project out, and then and gets them to go his way with motivation versus the way you want to go with. So that's going on, and he'll come over and talk to me a little bit and letting me know you don't have a deed of easement, I'm not going to give you one. So it's just getting worse and getting worse and getting worse. We're concerned about how we're going to build it, develop it, finance it. So him and I are battling back and forth, and his lawyer, there's a law firm in Smithfield called the Crook Law Firm, and I'm like, you can't make this shit up. and Woody Crook, and Woody's a good guy, but it's just interesting because it's just getting worse and worse by the minute. Now I got to interact with a lawyer that's called Crook, and that was his lawyer, and so we do all this back and forth, and he's dragging out the time. And I'm trying to figure out how to get the easement. I go ask all the neighbors if they'll give us an easement. And, they're all friends. They all go to church together. So they're all having a side conversation about this. And nobody would give us an easement. So, just looking and praying and looking and praying. And one day I was standing out there. I was by myself. And this was the day. And I was crying. I'm just like, man. I had my hands up in the air. I was praying. My hands were elevated in the air. And as I'm standing there, and I visit this spot on a regular basis there in thankfulness, a feather lands in my left hand. And there's no wind. And I'm like, there's no birds in there. There's not a bird anywhere. Because I'm just, there's a flock of geese flew over. It's just, it's not a big deal. You can figure that out. It's like, there's not a bird in the air and there's no wind, but that thing lands in my left hand. I still have it. It's here somewhere. It's taped to a piece of paper. And it's like, that's kind of weird. And just sits there. And the next thing to the right of me, this deer walks almost up to me and just to my right, ugliest deer I've ever seen. Some bitch just walks right up and kind of looks at me and just walks about 15 yards to my right. I'm like, what is going on here? These are two things that make no sense. Then it hit me. It's like, let's go. It's sending you a signal, Rick. I'm sending you something. That's how I perceived it. Other people may perceive it as just luck, but not those two things together. It's impossible. And I'm like, Lord, I'm all in now. I was going to run away. I didn't know what to do. Now I'm going to succeed or perish. And but I'm doing it in faith. And after that, everything started coming together. It was the most amazing thing. So the neighbor next door, he comes over the following day. He comes over crying. So hell, everybody's crying, and I love making that somebody's cry. It taught him a lesson. It's one of those. I love real good head game fight that lasts a long time. That's exactly what happened to him too. He was kind of doing something to me on paper, but I was camping out in that cat's head every day. Well, he comes over crying because his family's screaming at him because we're about to put a road behind their house along the property line with the city of Norfolk. Because I had figured out by studying on paper, I had checked with all the neighbors, but we were, one side of our property was touching the city of Norfolk. And we're like, city of Norfolk? How can Norfolk be out in Isle of Wight County? Well, during World War II, or either World War I or World War II, they bought up all the water and pumped it to Norfolk because it's the military facility over there. They were very smart about it. They bought the water rights and they pumped the water to Norfolk. Mm-hmm. So I went to the city of Norfolk, and the guy walked the easement with me, said, Rick, we won't give you an easement unless nobody else will. And I'm like, well, how do you check that? As of right now, nobody else will. He's like, well, you have to prove that. And you got to go through a series of letters. The guy next door got that, and he came over realizing I was about to put a road in on the property line next to his daughter's log cabin. And they were really upset about that because they're like living on a farm out in the country. Next thing you know, these new people next door are putting in a road behind their, to be traffic going behind their house. And he comes over and he's crying. I'm like, hey, hey, buddy, keep crying if you want to. I'm just letting you know. And this is when I get in counterphobic mode. It's real simple. Keep crying. You can get the hell out of here, or we'll go walk and pick an easement right now. He's like, let's go do it, Rick. Let's do it right now. And he did it, and we picked a spot. But he thought about it the next day and went back to the delay tactic. Mm-hmm. Well, that really got him right then because the city of Norfolk got notice. We sent a letter to him. He denied it. The city of Norfolk said in 30 days, if he won't respond in a favorable way to give you the easement, we'll give you one. And they did. And the farm was put up in auction because it was repossessed because nobody else could figure that out. Mm-hmm. But I figured it out. Okay, because that's why it went for sale as a repossessed farm because nobody could figure out the easement arrangement. And they had like 6 attorneys to check on it. I figured it out. So I had no choice. So just brutal, just absolutely brutal to have this dream. And when you drive down our driveway, it's really, really cool. It has a half a mile approach through the woods. It just like, like Alice in Wonderland. But it's like, and the road is called Reuter Lane. They were thinking about calling it Mary Oaks. And I'm like, I don't think so. Okay. And we don't Mary Oaks Road. It'll be Reuter Lane. Because about
sounds like an artist lives there.
They were trying to go to Artist Zone. I'm like, no, this is a warrior driveway right here. It's like, and it's so cool now because I'll write a check or I'll call into something, and people are like, your name is your address is your road. I'm like, yeah, we own that road. They're like, wow, and here it is. We have a dream, and it totally crashes and burns, and there's tears and. A real quick sidebar on it. I had to go to that banker that was influential, that knew the planning commissioner. Then after that, there was 2 senators that were involved in this, and all of them are like, hey, Rick, there ain't a whole lot we can do. And I told them to their face in counterphobic mode, you heavy hand me, I'll put your bitch ass in the newspaper. I'm just letting you know, I can see all you guys are all in on this. You heavy hand me, I'm going to have you in the newspaper. I'm okay if you treat me fair and I get my ass kicked, but all you get together and somehow pick on my little ass, I'm going to come after you. That makes sense publicly about how you picked on this little country boy out here that's trying to get his little old horse farm. And that kind of caught him by surprise a little bit because I told him I would methodically with each one of them do that. I would basically put a package together that reported this case where powerful people were going to conspire to not let me get it. So other things came up. They never pushed their position because I was pretty clear what I would do with them. And it was good that I did it because I think there's some influence levels that may have played out not in my favor. So they kind of idled that down. And then the city of Norfolk comes out. Instead of us purchasing this piece of land, they're like, hey, we'll just give it to you. Now it once goes back to blessing. We'll just give it to you. And we'll take some of the land that you have that there's water on that we want to get. So we get it for free.
So your driveway, you got some of that land for free.
Yeah, they just all we did was give them some watershed property with water was on it, but we didn't need it anyway because we couldn't use it because the water was on it. So that's a big blessing. And then it had 100-year-old pines on it because they don't timber. All the farmers timber. Well, they didn't timber that land, so it had 30-inch pines on it. It was incredible. So we took the pines, brought in a portable sawmill, and produced $50,000 worth of fence boards. Okay, with a portable sawmill because the pines were like high-grade timber, So you see psychologically, emotionally, it was unbelievable. Just unbelievable to go through this. And these powerful people who had influence. I'm trying to figure out how to come up with enough money to get the thing purchased without developing it.
Now you own a boiler company at the time.
Yeah.
But you're not.
We're working on paramechanical and building the farm.
You're not moving from a Mac mansion in Newport News to the farm.
No.
You're just a normal person with a normal house in Newport News or Hampton or whatever.
Yeah,
moving to the country.
Quarter of an acre with a house on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is a story of you. It's very similar to last episode where we're talking about buying a first building, and there's a level of, this is one of my favorite things about the work we do together. There's a level of figure out ability, right? In my house we say, Rick says everything's figure outable, right? And there's because there's this sense of being able to take something really hard and move through it calmly, but we have to stay at it. You have to keep going to paper,
going to paper. All those maneuvers made with all the senators and all those people, city of Norfolk, all that there was a new page done every day to replan. And people actually in the neighborhood, they tell rumors down at the country store down there, like we're part of the mafia. They're like the Reuter family down there. They defeated the planning commissioner, the most powerful person in their neighborhood. Rick kicked his ass. They're like, they're part of the mafia.
Pen and paper mafia.
We're not going to answer yes or no to that.
Sure.
Okay. And then my daughter got in an accident down on one of the intersections not too far from there. And then 2 weeks later, an intersection, everybody wanted 4-way signs up. The 4-way signs went up. Well, they thought we did that because our daughter got in an accident. So we just magically put the mafia, got that done. We're just like, well, yeah, we're not saying.
They're probably not part of our viewership, so you're safe.
It's like we're not saying whether we are or aren't. We're not agreeing or denying to it. But it was just interesting because they couldn't believe how we did these things. Well, what happens is, just like you're saying, most people won't believe how you do things, because when you start using paper and you start using persistence, and in those examples, there was no retreat. The retreat was devastating, so I had no choice but to stay in it and face the pain. Leaders furnace stuff. That the greater the pain, the greater the plan, and the greater the commitment, then the greater the outcome for forever. And we're not actually probably going to let our farm ever get sold. It'll probably put into a trust that won't be sellable, because my grandkids may want it for money. It's not a money thing now. Is that driveway stays there for forever, so we'll probably have it put in some kind of a trust that can't be sold. But that's our road. We put it in, and the story is the story of the Leaders Furnace and the story of the first building at PMI, the 4811 building, where we barely got it, and miraculous intervention happened because the BASF plant in Suffolk, all at once wants my boiler, and they asked me what I want for it, and I tell them, I think it was $200,000, which was exactly what I needed for the building down. But you see the provisions, you see the blessings. But here it was, Rick, will you be faithful? Rick, is it you or is it me? Rick, once you run out of you, you'll finally go ask me. And there was a provision there, because I was at the end of the rope. I had nothing left. And it's like, Lord, what do I do? He's like, count on me.
Yes.
But my plan doesn't count on him. But I need my plan too. It's crazy to listen to people say, you should be moving in faith every day, and they're opposed to a plan. They go together. They're not
faith,
one
it's
or
faith
the
and
other.
works.
Yeah. They go together. You plan as far as you can, and then you just let the Lord take it from there. And it's going to go where it's going to go. But for me, I've had there's the book called The Light and the Glory that Zig Ziglar says one of the best books ever written. And in there they speak of candle burning. It's the story of America. How America, there's just no way it exists without divine intervention, because it's just too screwed up. It just speaks of the 200 things that happened. Like, there's just no way this was luck, because we're just all these things. The same thing applies. Candle burning. These are all candle burning moments. That makes sense. Yes. Moments where I was provided for. Yes. Now, knowing that, when I enter into any other fights like this, I just play that out very early on. It's like, I'm not giving up. Just sit tight. Just sit tight. It's a test. It's a test. Stick with it. Study it. Analyze it. Outsmart them, because with the planning level that I have, you're going to be pretty agile to outsmart me. And you have to get up at 3:30, have to have a notepad, have to have a recorder, have to have 200 employees, have to have the Lord Jesus Christ all over on my team. It's like, you ain't kicking my ass. I'll be introducing the ass kicking to you. That makes sense? Is it like that Tom Petty song? Don't come around here no more. That makes sense. I have a graveyard of companies I've killed. I have a graveyard. It's not a literal graveyard, but there's 116. And I got 5 people putting pressure on me that want, a lot of people pull up here. And
you have some signs around here. I've seen the signs.
Where there's some people come over here and they want what we got, because they think, hey, I just want to be that. You got to pay the price. And we've paid dearly. I mean, we've had some events that with us, for us, it's the craziest thing, because it's like if we invest and I have a plan, then the plan don't happen. I'm like, that's like a cash flow nightmare, So just real quickly, the Hurricane Sandy thing is kind of like the farm. I was building all these boilers, trusting, and then I had pretty weak financial control people in the company. They were just kind of like open the envelopes, not really planning people, and I didn't know. They said they were controllers and financial people, so you hire them and you find out they aren't. So it's a bit of a Noah's Ark story. We had built 10 boilers, and I had ran out of money building them, and then it's kind of like building the ark. We had built the ark, and there was no rain, in sight. And then Hurricane Sandy came, and the rain came, and we had all those boilers ready right then, and everybody in the country rented out. All 10 of them went out. So we went from being so poor we were barely making it into, within 6 months, we were just had more money than we knew what to do with. But there it is. It's the same thing again. And that financial problem that I had was almost self-inflicted, because the controller should have been tracking with me as I was spending money. Let's just say I was spending $100,000 a month. They should have said, hey, how are we going to place that at proper financing? And at the end of it, we did it. So instead of doing it in the first 2 months, we did it 8 months later. Just stupid. You just can't make this shit up. I mean, you hire these people and they're just lukewarm or barely paying attention, but they have these pedigrees or resumes, and you don't know who they are until you get into battle. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I don't overly blame her, but it's just like, that was just common sense. And when I went and checked it, I'm just like, and then she was expensing the assets each month. They're assets. You don't expense those. You don't expense them. You basically set them up as assets and depreciate them. So our financials were taking $100,000 a month hit, and we're like, oh my God, we're losing our ass. And then next thing you know, we reset it and put the $1 million worth of assets, and next thing you know, we're back looking really good. All of this stuff because the controller wasn't paying attention, but I had enough faith to try it. It worked out, and that New York City has been our largest customer for, I don't know, years. I think so.
Rick, I'd love to end. This has been a episode about the benefits of remaining in the leader's furnace, and one of the things that I haven't talked about it too much on the podcast. We talked a little bit more about you, but like my dad passed away March 23rd. A few years ago, I was trying to make sense of things a little bit, and I came across this verse, March 23rd, 3:23, and I came across Colossians 3:23, right? It says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. It's one of the things that my dad, as a pastor, said to us a lot. He's like, don't do it for man. Do it for God. He's like, it's not easy working for human masters. He's like, but it is easier working for the Lord. And as we are recapping to being a soldier or a farmer or a artist, as we recap, learning to figure things out, that everything's figure outable, as we learn to do things and operate out of faith, build the ark. Right, I'm in a similar season of sorts. You know what I mean? My arc looks different. You know what I mean? But it's a similar season.
It takes a lot of faith to build an ark.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of naysayers in the process.
Oh, yeah. You learn all those things, don't you? Leader's furnace. You expect it. And all the weak people, the ones that have been through all this stuff, they're going to tell you how you fall short. There's the Teddy Roosevelt thing over there talks about the man in the arena.
Mm-hmm.
You're the man in the arena, and everybody has an expectation for you, but you will have a test, have your arms out waiting for the feather and the deer to come by.
Mm-hmm. And so we remain in the game as we go through this process. So thank you for today. Thank you for sharing your stories and your wisdom as we go through this process.
You're good. Thanks, Eddie.
Yeah, thank you.